recently, we've also seen recently Centenary Bank in Zambia recently appointed the CEO to be a Ugandan, and some few top-level executives are Ugandan. So it's not just only the Chinese, but also Ugandans are doing. Some of the advantages and look at for this strategy. It overcomes lack of qualified managers in the host country. It creates a unified culture since the person was already existing within the system. It also helps transfer to the new country, so the organization will not suffer a lot in establishing its systems since the same. There is a centralized decision-making system. Control is also made easy since the expatriates are familiar with the company's culture.
Have we lost you? Hello? We lost him, eh? Or you lost me?
Can hear you.
Okay.
So we lost him.
No, I was still on. And lastly, on the advantages, I talked about transfer of core competencies. This transfer of knowledge, specifically from where the company is headquartered to the subsidiaries in other countries. And some of the disadvantages that we have, these expatriates that are taken to these countries may struggle a lot to adopt the local culture. Then there are also higher costs associated with relocation of expatriates, including accommodation and training to fit in or adopt well. Then there is a limited development when it comes to local talent. It can produce resentment in the host country, and the nationals can resist the organization based on belief that they are discriminated since they are not appointed to these key positions. But also it leads to what we term as cultural myopia. This is lack of clear-sightedness and foresightedness for the organization to evolve its culture to fit in or blend in the host country. That is a little we're able to discuss. Thank you, sister.
I think members, you have heard from this group which discussed the ethnocentric. I would like to ask you, when could it be best employed? Does it apply to every sector? Or who could use this kind of approach for staffing?
Sister, I think it does not apply to every sector. I believe it applies to more of sectors where you require technical expertise. When I talk about technical expertise, for example, if we are to go to a particular country and set up an NGO, I don't think technicalities based on social work are tied up to a particular nationality. But when we talk about expertise in terms of construction, in terms of medical expertise, let's talk about probably neurology, and someone who works on the backbone and nerves. We might not have the expert within Uganda, but yet we want to set up a neurosurgeon surgeon hospital here in Uganda, where we are working on nerves or the backbone and everything. But the expertise is not there. So we might have to relocate someone who is an expert from another country to bring them here. When we talk about bridges, we might not have the expertise here in Uganda for bridge experts. So it might require us to bring people in to work on let's say, a particular project based on bridges. So we look at those that require specific technical expertise. I think the ethnocentric can work best there. Thank you.
Thank you. So specifically, we're looking at service sectors that could be very applicable. All right, thank you very much. I think you covered it well in relation to the when you are looking at the competence, when you are looking at the control and the ease in transference of what? Of knowledge. And when you look at the disadvantage, where you may feel like you are obligated to impose what it is, it may not work well in that aspect. So it is very, very important when you are trying to use this approach as a way of staffing your organization internationally, to see that whatever you are doing, it is in line to the transferable, the adaptability, the fitness, all goes into that kind of centric approach. Can I hear from the second group, please?
Thank you, sister. This is group 2. We are looking at polycentric approach. By definition, it's a hiring and staffing method in which international subsidiaries of a country find team members from the host country rather than one from the parent company's location. And as per our discussion, we realized it is mainly used by multinational corporations. And with this strategy, it basically assumes that the host or local country nationals are better equipped to manage local operations due to their understanding of the culture, language, and market conditions. We also discussed how it is formed. We realized that the polycentric staffing approach is formed when companies recognize the importance of adapting to local cultures, regulations, and market conditions, which may be difficult for expatriates from the other home countries to fully grasp. So it's a little hard. They feel like the local people basically understand everything. So it's easy for them to guide accordingly. Then there were also key steps that are involved when forming a polycentric staffing approach, and there are mainly 4. The first one being conducting an assessment of the local market needs to understand the specific needs of the host country's market. And this will include understanding the customer preferences, the legal requirements, and then the cultural factors as well. Then the second being the recruitment of local talent to fill key positions in the subsidiary, such as managers and executives. I think some of us could be very well conversant of the recently opened supermarket, or what would say like Chinatown. When you go there, you'll find even the sales manager and all those are Ugandans, and even the people that they've employed to kind of manage like the local operations are also Ugandans. And then the third step is the localization of the HR policies to align with the local culture, labor laws, and then business practices. And then the fourth step is to offer training and development programs to ensure that the local employees can meet the company's global standards while also leveraging their local expertise. We have a number of organizations that use this approach. I think Standard Chartered Bank, if we know that most of their senior managers are Ugandans that are employed, but Standard Chartered, the headquarters are in the UK. MTN also uses a similar approach. Nile Breweries, Unilever, that does a lot of distribution of products, also has a similar approach. So how is the polycentric staffing used? There are different scenarios as to when this is applied. The first one being when a company wants to tailor its products, services, and operations to fit the local market better. I talked about a case in point, Uganda Breweries, that I think uses this similar approach, and they work with a company called, is it Diageo, which is a global alcoholic beverage. It's the one that owns the Uganda Breweries. So you find that for them, they're applying the polycentric approach in staffing, and then it's also used when companies would want to comply with the local laws, where we have, like in some countries, for instance, if there could be a legal requirement to hire a certain percentage of local employees, and this automatically makes this approach very necessary. I work with an organization, and with the organization, it's the headquarters are based in, but you find even the country director is, and senior managements are Ugandans. So they basically need to comply to show that they're giving also opportunities for the host communities to be part of this. And then it's also used when we would want to reduce costs. We know that having expatriates to do most of the work, it's very costly, and the cost comes in as a result of relocation expenses, housing allowances, and higher salaries. So this really helps when an organization uses this approach, it reduces the cost. And then it's also used when we want to improve local relations. We believe that most of us practice this a lot. Sometimes when it gets out of hand, you switch to the local language so that someone can better understand you. So locals may be more trusted than foreign expatriates when using this approach. Some of the advantages for polycentric approach, the first one being cultural fit. As I said, the local employees might be more familiar with the culture, language, and social norms, which are leading to better communication and understanding with local customers, suppliers, and employees. If you go even with maybe just looking at something that's more like supermarkets which are owned by Chinese, you'll find that sometimes even when you're buying something on the counter, they will maybe, if the communication becomes very hard, they will call a Ugandan to come and maybe explain something better for you. So this makes communication very easy. And then we look at the reduce, where hiring locals, it's generally less expensive, getting expatriates, because this will eliminate those other costs that are associated with moving, housing, allowances, and also like the high salaries. Look at another advantage being the improved local relationships, where local managers are more likely to build strong relations with local stakeholders, including government officials, which can facilitate smoother operations. And then the compliance with local regulations, where I believe like local employees are better equipped to navigate and comply with local labor laws and business regulations. And then increased morale and motivation among the local staffs, where they will feel more valued and appreciated, and they will be able to also see opportunities for advancement to manage positions within the company. There are disadvantages that are associated with this approach. One being the lack of global integration, whereas most companies will focus on local responsiveness, trying to realign things with the local laws and regulations. You'll find that a company may struggle to maintain a unified cooperation or culture and global standards across all the subsidiaries. Then there could be also limited career paths for local employees, where local managers may find it very difficult to advance beyond the subsidiary level. So maybe when they attain a position like a manager, they might fail to even upgrade to like a CEO position or something. So they might be kept in that one position for the entire time until maybe they just decide to leave the organization. Then we look at the coordination challenges, where managing a network of subsidiaries with different management styles, policies, and practices can be challenging for the headquarters, leading to potential inconsistencies in the company's global operations. I said I work with a company that is based in Asia, but you find that for them on Friday, they don't work. The holiday starts on Friday and Saturday, and they will be in office on Sunday, which is a day when for us in Uganda here, we take it as a day of rest. So it's hard. Sometimes when something is urgent on our side, like if you send an email on a Friday, you might fail to get like immediate response. They send on a Sunday, you're not in office, so it's also like a delayed response. So coordination becomes a little challenging. And then we have communication barriers, because we are looking at the diversity, like the different languages, cultures, and business practices between the headquarters and then the subsidiary, that might create barriers that leads to misunderstandings or delays in decision. I think I had explained that. Then the last one being the resistance to change. Local managers may be resistant to implementing changes implemented by the headquarters, especially if they perceive these changes as being out of local realities. Recently, we were having some bit of training, and with the organization that I'm working, they are sharing that for them, when women are going into those days of the month, they always, I think, take days off, or like they have to work in offices instead of like moving to the field. So you find that when that idea was also brought here, they're like, but this organization is employing 80% of women. Will it mean that every day, or like 2 days in a month, when the girl is a lady is in the time of the month, will they be out of office, or will they be not entitled to go to the field? So which means they are losing like a lot of resources and all these things. So they are like, no, this will not work in the context of Uganda. So you find that in conclusion, if we look at all these approaches, for polycentric, it's basically deliberate, a process that will entitle people of understanding and adapting to complexities of international markets, by empowering like the local subsidiaries and customizing business practices. But however, there's a challenge of balancing the local adaptation with the global coherence, which requires careful planning and robust management systems. Thank you. That is presentation for group 2. Over to your sister. I think we can't hear you, sister. You
can hear me now?
Yes.
Thank you. What I was saying, that I thanked Stella, Carol, for the job you have done. You have clearly explained the concept. The example you have provided us, I think, helped to enhance the knowledge and understanding of this theory in relation to the strategy employed by managers when they are staffing their organization. And also you have highlighted the benefit in regard to why they choose to use this approach and the challenges. Now it remains on the members to discern how best to employ this approach when you are staffing. Because if she has given you examples where you have the new center for the Chinese, which has just opened up, when you are familiar with the financial institutions that they have highlighted, it is important that you get to study and analyze those organizations to see how those kind of approach or strategies benefit the organization in relation to the sector they are serving, in relation to the customer they are attracting, in relation to the competition that they are in, to see why that is the best approach. Because now you could even hear already the Ugandan business sector is complaining how the Chinese center has kind of distorted the business environment and how it is perceived and why it is here. It is ours for us to analyze and discern how best we can employ that approach, or how we can advise management to ensure that it leads to the competitiveness of your organization. Thank you, Akero. You did a very wonderful job. And I'm sure I have those notes for those who never had a chance to discuss. You'll share those notes with them, okay? Can we hear from group 3, please? Group 3? The Geo, what is the Geo telling us? Yes.
Yeah, Robert here.
Go ahead.
Okay. Group 3, we were tasked to discuss and describe the geocentric as one of the international staffing strategies. So when we were discussing, we looked at geocentric being one of the international staffing strategy that treats the world as a single market when managing and deploying employees. This approach, a company or an organization hires the most qualified individuals, regardless of their nationality, to fill key positions across all its global operations. Now, geocentric, it aims to utilize the best talent from around the world to meet global business goals. Hello?
You're breaking a little bit.
Yeah, oh, sorry. It aims to utilize the best talent from around the world to meet the organizational goals and objectives. So one of the advantages we looked at is access to the global talent pool, whereby this approach allows the company to recruit the best talent from anywhere in the world. With this, it can help you to employ workers with different skills, experiences, and perspectives, which helps in enhancing operational creativity and innovations. Then the second advantage we looked at is geocentric. It fosters a cultural diversity within the organization, whereby you are able to understand the different markets and customer preferences. For example, if I recruit from China, it will help me to know the market and customer preferences of Chinese. If I'm to offer services to Chinese people. Then the third advantage would be unity and consistency across the global branches, whereby when you're recruiting, you're able to hello. Sorry, I lost.
When you're recruiting?
I was on the third point where we said that if you use the geocentric approach, the company promotes a sense of consistency in its operations across different markets. For example, you can be able now to have effective communication, coordination, and this can help in alignment of the global objectives and goals. Then the fourth one, the better understanding of international enhanced innovation and creativity. By bringing in employees with different skills and experiences, you can be able to have even innovation and creativity within your organization. And to the advantages, disadvantages, we see when you recruit from a global pool, we see that recruiting, relocating, and compensating employees from various parts of the world can be quite expensive. For example, if I'm recruit from, let's say, Europe or any other country, I will have to get visas. I have to pay like relocation packages, provide housing for the employers I'm recruiting. So it's a bit expensive. Then using this approach requires navigating different labor laws, like how we discussed in the morning. We said you will find that different countries have different labor laws, immigration laws, and the employment regulations. So that can create compliance challenges if you're using the geocentric approach, and failure to adhere to these laws can lead to penalties and maybe legal actions brought against the organization. Then the third disadvantage, which we looked at, is employees who relocate from one country to another may face challenges or difficulties in adjusting to new cultures, languages, and work environments. So this can impact on the organization in terms of lower productivity or dissatisfaction, especially if the cultural differences are significant. Then the fourth one, we looked at the management style. If you're trying to manage a culturally diverse workforce with varying expectations, work habits, and different communication styles, it can sometimes be challenging. So when you do not have strong leadership, this diversity can lead to misunderstanding or conflicts, which may negatively impact teamwork. Then the last disadvantage we looked at is that in some cases, we see local employees, they might feel that passed over if key positions are filled by these international hires. So this can lead into demotivation among the local staff, which can also negatively affect the morale and productivity. So in summary, the geocentric staffing strategy is ideal for the multinational corporations or companies which are aiming for global integration, innovation, and competitiveness. However, this approach is a bit expensive, like it demands significant investment in terms of cost, time, and effort in managing the legal, cultural, and operational aspects. Yeah, that's the end of our presentation. Maybe if my other colleagues have anything to add or any questions, they can bring them up. I submit.
Thank you. Thank you. But members, do you have questions in regards to their presentation or some comments to add on? Nothing? So when best do you think that approach is applicable? I ask the entire class based on what you have heard. I'm asking how or when could we use that as approach for staffing? It can be applied anywhere, anyhow.
I think it can be applied in the service sectors. For example, the medical that need the specialized skills that if they are not available in the country, they can be sourced from anywhere. I submit.
Thank you. So you are considering the service sector?
I have a different approach.
Go ahead.
So it can be applied in the foods and beverages. For example, like Coca-Cola. And let's say that company is looking to expand their global reach or to enter in new markets. I think or strengthens their competitive advantage. So I think that is the approach they can to enter in new markets.
You realize that for them they can source from anywhere, regardless of the geographically, their nationality, their whatever. Robert.
Sister, I think
your network is
one is when you're looking at the global competitiveness. I'll give an example. If you want to remain competitive, you may look at your top talent in leadership positions, so their nationality. Then two, you can look at, I'll give an example of Google or Microsoft. It can apply the geocentric approach, ensure that their corporate culture, innovations, and
network. Time of the day, network is very poor. Okay, I think you heard from him. If not, you can post it on the chat. Then you don't lose it. But the fact is, repeat, please, if you can. Yeah. As it
want to remain competitive. Hello?
Yes, you can go ahead.
Yes, if the company is looking at remaining competitive within the market, then you can look at pressing your top talent in leadership positions, regardless of your nationality. So that means if I want to remain competitive, my organization remain competitive, then I can recruit from the globe using this geocentric approach. Then the second one is when I'm looking at integrating or into the global market or standardizing everything. For example, I've given an example of Microsoft where they can apply this geocentric strategy to ensure that their corporate culture, the technological aspects, innovations are consistent across all markets. Yeah, I submit.
Thank you. So in other words, you're putting on top of everything that you want to maintain the standards, you want to maintain the consistency, you want to ensure that you are competitive, you get the best of the best from anywhere and you place them where they are supposed to be able to contribute, regardless of their nationality, their language, their whatever. That is very, very key. And that's when you are going to find that whether you have regional offices or when you have a headquarter based in different region, but you are considering your staffing based on their capacity to perform to the best of their abilities in the areas where you want to bring them on board. So you don't consider it's from this area, it's for everybody has the equal chances to work from everywhere your organization is operating. Group 4. Can we hear the last one, please? Centric region.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
My name is Winifred Nalco. And group 4 was looking at the region-centric approach. Region-centric basically means recruiting labor from people selected in the same region. For example, in East Africa, Coca-Cola also does that regionally, and other organizations like Serena, among others. The East African community or region consists of countries like Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi. There are advantages to the region. The fact that they possess the same culture, there is a more human resources in the region that are working for a particular.
Flavia, you are breaking. Flavia, your network.
Yes.
You're being off.
Am I audible now?
Yes, please.
Okay. We are looking at advantages. Number 1, there are low costs of hiring, whereby people within the same region, the fact that you look at the distance, it might be cheaper for an organization to pick someone in the same region as opposed to international employees. There's a higher retention rate because people enjoy working near home. You look at, for example, if I was taken to Tanzania, there's a job offer for Tanzania and say Netherlands. Other factors remaining constant. Everyone wants, at the end of the day, you want to be near your family. So you would consider being in this country because it is your region and it is near home. You can always move. Then there is an advantage of culture. For example, in East Africa, our culture is nearly the same. So it is easy to mingle and settle in a culture that you are more conversant with. Then also, there is more interaction between executives, especially when they are transferred to regional headquarters. There will not be a series of, for example, you plan to do something in months because someone is far. You can even look at 2 days to schedule something, a meeting, and then it will become cheaper and convenient for everyone. There are disadvantages still to region-centric approach. Even if the cultures are nearly the same, there's a difference in the mindset. For example, I would like to compare Ugandans and Kenyans. Ugandans are more laid back, lazy, but Kenyans can be called workaholics because they want to work all the time. They know what it means when it comes to work, unlike Ugandans, we are just getting there. Then the fact that there is cultural homogeneity, it limits innovation and creativity. You're stuck to what is comfortable with you as people in the same region. So you're limiting yourselves to creativity and innovation. There is also local competition within the region. You'll find that even if you're in the same region, there is more of competition. I will tell you, in service-based industries, people tend to want to work more with Kenyans as opposed to Ugandans. There are also regulatory and legal challenges, especially with boundaries that region-centric strategies will encounter. There are also communication barriers. I will still give an example. Uganda, we are not yet there onto the East African language. For example, Swahili. In Uganda, it's like 20% can fluently speak Swahili. Yet when you're posted to a country like Tanzania, you find yourself having to speak Swahili like throughout. So there are issues of communication barriers because of the language. In conclusion, region-centric, given the fact that it has those disadvantages and advantages as mentioned, for some of the disadvantages, you can work better towards making it convenient for you for the benefit of the organization. For example, if we look at the issue of limiting talent, because you're in the same region, it is easier for you to recruit someone to train international standards for that region such that you are at par. Then for local competition in a region, you can look at, for example, increasing on your for the local competition, especially when it comes to skills or mindsets, still training can be of the essence in service training, and then for a language barrier, countries like Uganda can make it mandatory for example, primary level to start teaching Swahili as a compulsory language, just for purposes of the future. When you get employed, you're able to speak Swahili, and then you're not left out because you cannot speak Swahili as the language for the region. I submit.
Thank you. Questions? Comments? So basically, you have heard what your peers have discussed from the 4 major strategies that are employed internationally when they are staffing their organization. It's very, very important not to think that all of them are the same, but to know when to choose which is the best for your organization, and to know how you're going to implement it well to ensure that you are able to achieve your goal. Because as we have heard, there are those who may choose best because they are globally, strategically, and aligned to remain competitive. And there are those which are considering maybe the expertise. There are those which are considering the cultural aspect or the values of the organization and other factors. So that's when you are looking at identifying or choosing or finding and selecting. You need to know what are the factors that you're putting up front. I'm not going to repeat everything. They'll share the notes and I'll share what I have for you. These are some of the things that I had identified whereby you realize the answer. They have talked of it. Unified culture is the key, and the core competencies to be standardized and transferable smoothly is another factor. When it comes to the disadvantage, there could be that resentment when it comes to the host country, where they realize that you have brought everything of your own and there is nothing left for them. So that you have to be very careful. How do you localize it to make sure that it is acceptable? When it comes to the polycentric, you realize that when it comes to the management, they will allow the managers from the country to occupy the positions in their headquarters. But also that comes with some disadvantages. And that is why it is important for you to know, by bringing in your own, what does it leave for the host country when they're also looking for opportunities where they can come to tap into the new organizations which are coming in, okay? And do you have the right people when it comes to the culture, when it comes to the language, when it comes to the relationship, building the networking? How are they going to fit in? It is another factor for you to consider as regards to whom you choose to be able to bring your goals and objectives achievable or realized. Then when it comes to the GEO, you have heard what they have said, where it allows both the local and the global also come into as managers. But also it is important to consider what it means when you're looking at the host and the home country, to make sure that by filling up your organization, you are meeting the standards in relation to the policies, in relation to the laws, the governing laws, in relation to performance when it comes to the efficiency, in relation to the cost when it comes to deploying and compensation. All those factors are important for you to put into perspective. Then the region, you have heard also about it. And when it comes to the same, we are saying the same geographic area, that may leave you without even broadening your perspective, because all you have is what you are moving with. And as if that is the best you can fail to adapt into, or you may have a challenge when you are faced with the difficulties on how to adjust in one way or the other. So those are the kind of approaches majorly employed in managing, in recruiting, in selecting, and positioning the employees across borders. And that brings us to think about, when we have a hierarchy approach as a strategy, how can management promote control within such an organization? We are reversing back to the structure. You know, we talked about the structure, organization structure in managing international operations. Then I'm flashing back and say, if this is the approach, the structure of the organization, how could the HR promote control within such an organization structure? So it is for each one of you to help me understand whether you know the operational structure of international in relation to the local, and I just brought you this. And it is on the paper saying, how can HR management promote control within such a structure? Those who have not presented, this is your turn to show that you have been present. And those who have been sleeping, this is your turn to wake up. What could management do in such operational structure? Hello? Don't tell me you are gone. Are you gone? I'm still present. I'm almost going. But I want to go in a good way, knowing that learning is happening. Rita, ask someone a question in relation to this. The language I'm using may be a little bit difficult.
Since I've been off the network, because of the network, I've just come back. Kindly repeat for me the question.
No, I was asking, we have been talking about staffing international organizations, and we have talked about the different strategies employees and highlighted the 4, which are key. Then the whole topic has been about human resource management. Then we are flashing back because we have already talked about operational management in relation to international operations. Now, that's when I have to ask, if we have talked about operational management and now we have talked about human resource management, I want you to help me understand how could the HR department or section promote control within a structure like this, which is hierarchy? What do they have to do? Corinne.
Okay, sister, maybe I just want to give it a try. From experience, I think HR can try to balance, for example, balance the number of international staff and national staff depending on the specialty or the needs of the role. Like, for example, if it is a high management role, maybe a country director or maybe assistant country director programs systems can decide to have an international staff. But for lower level roles or managers, it can be left to the national staff to motivate them, but also to encourage learning within the organization, that shared learning between the international staff and also the national staff. Yeah, and we can see that nowadays, even most of the donors or the partners are encouraging localization because they are realizing that importing labor or having a lot of international staff is becoming heavy in terms of operations. It is so expensive to maintain international guys, maybe in all roles, but you can have it like maybe higher level. And with time, we shall be seeing maybe probably all organizations starting to localize their organizations down in terms of cutting costs and being competitive for this funding, because you don't want to be the person who, an organization which is spending a lot on international staff when there are also local staff who can do the same work. So yeah, it's a way of they should encourage that learning bit, the motivation, passing on leadership roles also to the national staff in some way or another. Yes, sister, over to you.
Thank you, Pauline. Pauline has a lot she has said, and she has talked about when it comes to the to getting them there. She has recognized the layers which are there, and recognize the importance of how you can train them to make sure that they all feel they are measuring up to the performance. She has also talked about other things that you need to do in regards to who is doing what. And I think that is the kind of the job description, to know who is responsible for that. And I think that brings in the control aspect and other areas. How about others? What do you think?
Sister, I wanted to ask something, or to submit something. On what Pamela submitted, I wanted to find out, because now some companies or organizations, before recruitment, they look at the government policy for that country. Let me give an example of Uganda. If you're outside Uganda, the Indians, they are always told these specific positions you're supposed to recruit locals, and then these other positions.
Let's continue. You have a good point there. Rita, your network, I know it's not steady, but you have a very good point you are raising up there in regards to the HR area. Another one can come in as she picks it.